Paul,
Oh, okay.
introduce yourself and tell us what seat you're running for and what party you're with.
Yeah, so I'm Paul Miller. I am an electrician by profession, and I am running for U.S. House District 1, which is not in Tooele, but that's okay.
That's great.
And I am running against Blake Moore. And and you know why I'm running against Blake Moore is because I'm frustrated. Oh, do I'm gonna keep going?
Nope. You're
No, I'm
good.
talking
Keep
to
going.
him.
Oh, okay.
Keep going.
So yeah, I'm frustrated, like many in my district are, with his votes. Like his votes are not holding up to the Utah standard of what we should expect from our representatives, and especially those on the debt, and especially with FISA was a recent one that he really went against the voters in that one too. And so, yeah, I'm frustrated, and we need a change of delegation, and we need to. I think if we can replace Blake Moore, we will get rid of some of that corruption in DC and stuff like that. So, but
Now you are running as a Republican.
yes,
So you're challenging from the party.
yeah.
How has that been treating you?
Well, convention was awesome. So I got 55% at convention. Is real 54.89 or something like that. And so convention was awesome. The highly informed voters know, Blake's bad votes and everything. And the primary has been a struggle. This is David versus Goliath race for me. He has $1.5 million, and I'm running on thousands here. So marketing is very key in the primary, and so the finances help with that.
Let's get your website name out so we can at least get people looking you up.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, so it's my initials, PM for Utah, FOR Utah, and then UTAH.com. And so yeah, there you go. So all of my information's there. There's a donation button at the bottom, and there's about me and my family.
So, Paul, I was at convention and I thought it was pretty impressive. I mean, you primaried an incumbent, and they probably didn't love that.
No.
Well, it's interesting. Where do you live? Like, where do you?
I just want to take a minute and talk about the St. Bernard and the St. Bernard pup.
Oh, geez.
Holy cow!
So I live in South Ogden.
South Ogden.
Yeah, so I grew up in Layton, and so I grew up probably a mile south of Hill Air Force Base, and right now I live probably a mile and a half north of Hill Air Force Base. So I just flipped on the other side of the runway. And
were you a Layton Lancer?
No, I was a Northridge Knight.
So. Okay, well, I'm a Granger Lancer, so I knew there was another Lancer. Yeah. So, what's interesting, and I don't know if you've ever seen our show before. I'm sure you have seen every episode, actually.
Yeah.
But we had a group on regarding the development happening in Park City. And this development was so fought, Democrats, Republicans alike.
Yeah.
I highly recommend you go check out that show because those are people you want to get in touch with.
Okay.
They're fighting with their own legislators, and I believe you would represent Summit County.
Yeah, some of it.
Yeah. This development was going to add how many new housing projects? 700.
Yeah, it was 700 and something, but they were going to peel off like 12 for low income.
Low income, which met the criteria of what, 300,000?
Yeah,
300,000.
Low income for Park City.
And honestly, this is going on right now. Their council fought about it in the courts because they were so angry that this was taking place, and their council actually won. And then they put a pause to it.
Yeah, and then they reverted.
They put a pause to it. So here's all these people mad as hell. And that's a Democrat blue county, but they are looking for someone to stand up for them because it would add millions of cars to Park City, already having these traffic jams like crazy going to the ski resorts and stuff. And I know Kira Birkeland is sitting down with them again. I talked to her at convention and brought up our show, and she said she's going to watch it and definitely will get in touch with the people. But the people of Summit County, they need someone who's listening. Yeah. And their congressman wasn't.
Huh. Yeah, and I mean, and Summit County is different. So I get Jeremy Ranch and Kimball Junction and Colville.
That's where this development is.
It was right. It's that old Walmart right off of Kimball.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that would be my district. And then, Park City is not in my district though. So as soon as you get out of Kimball Junction, then that's not my district. So it's kind of interesting. But
well, I should get you in touch with Melanie if you haven't talked to the chair of Summit County yet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I have.
Get you in touch with her. So get in touch with her and just say you want to learn more about this project and maybe how you can talk to the people, because people are ready and thirsty for somebody who is going to take a stand and on their behalf and who's going to put a stop to this. I don't know anyone that lives there that's excited about this.
Yeah.
And the fact that the governor's office is involved, they've got 2 state legislators that voted wrongly, and one of them corrected her vote later on, and their congressman wouldn't be bothered with it. And they're just like, what's happening?
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of different people in your district that are from all types of life.
Oh yeah.
Even Park City's Summit County, not all of them are millionaires.
No. And
some of them are billionaires.
Yeah. But I'm actually going up to Jeremy Ranch on Tuesday to meet with I think 3 or 4 of the precincts up there actually. So I'll actually bring that up on Tuesday and get a lot more information about that. Because that's right in the neighborhood where you're talking. So
I'm gonna probably I'm gonna try to find the name of our show on that one.
Okay.
And then let you know. And so you can actually listen to the gentleman that talked to us, because it was astounding to hear at all these people so against it. And I know a lot of them are Democrats.
Yeah.
But they needed help. Oh, you've got the shows right here. Do you have their names?
What?
I was sorry, talking to my producer again. I'm sorry. So while we're looking,
you're looking at a different screen than I am. So
while we're looking it up, why don't you tell us what made you decide to run?
Yeah. So like I was saying, so I was frustrated about Blake and all of his voting record is ridiculous. So he talks a really good game about balancing the budget, reducing our deficit. And if you pay attention to his votes, he's voting for every spending bill put in front of his face, and he even campaigns on it in his town halls. He says that no government shutdown has ever resulted in a decrease in spending. It's always an increase. And so so how many times has the government shut down? It's maybe a handful.
Once under Obama, and they blame Ted Cruz and the Republican Party for it.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen very often. And whenever it does happen, it's always the Republicans that give in and give in to the Democrats. And so, because the Republicans are the spineless party, right? And so, but if we aren't shutting the government down, then we're just continuing to kick the can down the road from our deficit, and our deficit just keeps growing and piling onto the debt. And so that's not a healthy solution either. And so and while I don't want to shut the government down, I'm going to vote no, which would result in a government shutdown if there was enough representatives voting with me.
I'm fine with it.
It's only a temporary shutdown for a limited amount of the government. For whatever appropriations that we were debating at the time. And so, but right now, congressional leadership always brings, these omnibus bills, minibus bills, or even appropriations bills a day or two before funding expires, And so there's always a looming government shutdown. And so they will always abuse that play in the playbook every single time because.
And there's always a whole bunch extra tacked on.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And, and just like the omnibus bill that we saw in March, like that the House couldn't even amend any of that. And they debated it on Friday, which they're never in session on Friday. And it was during Easter weekend. So reps were looking to get home to their families and go do what they needed to. And so, yeah, they're going to vote for it, and this is the abuse that congressional leadership plans on. It's planned.
And can I just say, though, that a lot of these bills aren't in American citizens' best interest.
No, they're not.
And sometimes they're giving away our liberties, our Fourth Amendment, our children's future, because they're not spending my money anymore.
Yeah.
They're not even spending my kids' money anymore. It's my great-grandchildren's money.
Yeah.
And for me, that means you're not representing me very well.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not got my best interest at heart.
Yeah. And it's so ridiculous because in the Republican conference in the House, they have one of the rules. Well, there's 3 rules that they set for the budget: single line veto item power, debate each appropriations bill individually, and give at least 72 hours to debate the bill. And what do they do every single spending bill? They
suspend the rules.
They suspend the rules and they move forward with the motion. And so, why have rules if you're never going to follow them? Why have laws if you're never going to follow them? And so
I don't know. I think that falls under insider trading area stuff. We don't need to.
Yeah,
I think he's right. I think they know Easter's coming up, or it's the weekend. They want to get home to their families, and it's lazy.
Yeah.
Does everyone remember how and when the Federal Reserve Act was voted through?
No one remembers that.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
We weren't there, but it was
alive.
December 21st, 1913. They did it when everyone was already home.
How about when?
And it wasn't even considered legal. Everyone that was fighting against it just folded. There was that whole, sinking of the Titanic that killed a lot of the people anyway.
Yeah.
And maybe they were just afraid they'd go on a Titanic ride the next year.
How about Obamacare?
Yeah.
Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And it's been in the playbook. The big issue is we've got our federal government writing laws that's not in their purview.
Yeah, and that's another part of my campaign. Like we have Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution lays out the jurisdiction of Congress and its duties, and then Article 2 talks about the executive branch. And nowhere in Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution does it say that the executive branch can unilaterally create laws that are enforceable. And so that's Congress's duty. And so I don't know why they ever let the bureaus and agencies dictate their own laws. They can dictate policy, that's fine, because policies are formed around a law. But a law that's enforceable should be passed by Congress, and which is why we need to pass the REINS Act.
Yeah.
The fact you even have to pass the REINS Act is ridiculous.
Yes, I agree.
Because what bureaucrat thinks they've got law writing power? And we have empowered these bureaucrats and they are not responsible, or they don't have to answer to anyone that's elected.
Yeah.
They're the biggest top of them are all appointed people, not elected.
Yeah.
And they're absolutely running amok to where they think they can write laws and turn half of America into felons overnight because they make a decision based on a Second Amendment right.
Yeah.
This is asinine. It's a clown world.
Yeah, and this is what the Biden regime is doing right now. They can't pass anything in Congress, and so all of the bureaucrats are pushing the Biden agenda, and it's infringing on our rights, and it shouldn't be allowed. And that's not what the framers had in mind for our country.
You're right. And they come at you from so many directions.
Yeah.
You'll have the commerce coming after your ability to purchase an item. At the same time, you'll have a law enforcement agency coming at your ability to own a different item. They hit you from every direction.
What I don't understand, though, is the Senate has the majority. Why are Biden's laws not being passed? I mean,
Well-
Congress has to be the purse, but the Senate has the majority.
Well-
obviously, the policy is bad.
You still need the House, so it still has to pass
Yeah.
the House. It has to pass the Senate,
Right.
and then
But our majority is like what, 8?
oh no,
We cannot afford to have our congressman voting against
Oh.
us. We can't afford it.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
only a few that give us the majority at all.
yeah. If and there's probably 5, 6, 7 Rhino Republicans in the House that. But that's the thing, and that's why it's important that we have the Speaker of the House, because the Speaker of the House decides which legislation gets put on the House floor and which doesn't. So once it passes the Senate, if the Speaker of the House says no, I'm not going to do that, then they won't look at it at all or debate it, and which is what was happening with the Ukraine funding before Mike Johnson bent over backwards for the Democrat Party, because we had an Israel-only bill that the House passed, and we passed it on to the Senate, and Chuck Schumer said, no, we're not going to look at that. And so then Chuck Schumer said, hey, look at this Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan bill. And Mike Johnson said, no, we're not going to look at that. We've made a rule that we're going to do each of these foreign aid bills individually on their own merit. And so, no, I'm not going to look at that. And then there was a switch that flipped with Mike Johnson, and he got compromised, blackmailed, or something.
Right.
Because,
let's not call it the vape smoke-filled room.
Yeah. And so now Mike Johnson's pushing every Democrat agenda item onto the floor.
And mind you, we get nothing in return.
Yeah.
They're not bringing the Mayorkas impeachment to the floor of the Senate.
Yeah. And
No.
that's a thing. Like, I don't know if they ended up doing that or not, but
they impeached him in the House.
No,
they're not bringing it to the Senate.
Yeah. And
that's the thing about Republicans. We tend to give and give, but there's in the compromise, it's us giving and them never compromising.
Yeah, like
I don't understand how they can call it a bipartisan bill when all it means is the Democrats put everything they wanted and we added something we wanted, and yet we didn't get anything.
Well, they'll get the Rhino Republicans to sign off on it, and as soon as there's one Republican signing off on a Democrat bill, hey, it's bipartisan, and that's what Blake Moore just had a story, and he had 2 people co-sponsor his bill, and so he's like, yeah, it's a bipartisan bill, and so and we'll see if that gets any traction, but
isn't it funny how to to the layman they always use that as, look, it's a positive thing.
Yeah,
it's bipartisan.
Yeah,
both parties agree to screw you.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, that's usually how it is. Yeah, and that was one of my messages that I had said at convention. I am sick of compromising. I am not going to compromise. Like, we have compromised our principles away, and it is morally and financially bankrupting our country. And so with Blake Moore voting for these spending bills, he is funding the border. He is funding DEI in the military. He is funding, the climate agenda. And so, like, how can you say that you're against these principles, but yet vote to fund them and implement them into the government,
Well, let me stop you there. He's not only funding, all those things, but these bills are funding the border in Ukraine.
Yeah.
They're funding borders in Israel. They're funding borders everywhere but the United States of America.
Yeah. Of course, the border in Ukraine stops people from leaving.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Ukrainians.
Yeah, I do too.
I've said it before. I know it's not a popular opinion most of the time. I think our support for Ukraine is just going to cause a generation loss there.
It's losing both in Russia and Ukraine.
It's just Russia can afford to lose the people. Yeah. Ukraine's burned through all their young men. We're going to, in 20 years from now, Ukraine's going to be a very, very, very cautionary tale.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
You know, I'm curious. You're taking on an incumbent, so you already know, and I can't stress this enough. If this candidate is someone that you agree with, you got to get him funding, because incumbents are sitting on a lot of money, and it's usually money that's generated from their work. It's not like he's a brand new congressman. Blake Moore now is in his second term.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep. And
he's obviously pleased certain people that are funding his campaign.
yeah. So can I talk about that for a second?
Well,
Please.
I just want to ask how an electrician is finding his way into the political game in a state where only developers can.
Yeah,
I'm
right.
curious to
There's a
know
lot of
what he
developers in politics in Utah. So and that's the thing. Yeah, I'm a blue collar worker, and so yeah, I'm running on pennies compared to his millions, you know. And one thing that I found out when I was, you know, doing all my research on Blake Moore, like I was looking at his campaign financing, and I had this idea driving home from work one day. I should probably look at his contributions to his campaign and look at when he voted for bills and see if there's a correlation there. And you know what? When he votes for a military spending bill, there is a military subcontractor in Clearfield. It's called ES3, and they donate $50,000 into his campaign account every time he votes for a military spending bill. Now that I've exposed this,
That's just disgusting.
Yeah, now that I've exposed this, his the itemized contributions finally hit just this week, I think. And so guess what? It stopped. So these last two military spending bills, it stopped. But the ES3 PAC committee does still donate the $5,000 to his account.
Well, they probably donated another route. I don't know. I mean,
yeah, but
I understand that prostitution is supposed to be illegal here in this state.
Yeah.
But
that's just gross.
Because that's what it is.
Yeah.
He lays down on his back and,
it's perception. Even if it's not true, the perception of it is bad.
When they call him, does he say, so do you want the girlfriend experience this time?
Okay,
or
stop.
But yeah, and you know, my wife gets after me because I was adding up all of the money from all of the lobbyists and DC attorneys that have donated to his campaign. He's gotten over 80 grand from lobbyists and attorneys to campaign contributions, and that doesn't even include the match that Win Red gives him. So it is likely near 150 grand of what he gets from lobbyists and Win Red.
What kind of lobbyists?
What are lobbyists?
No, what kind are they? Are they gun lobbies? Are they?
I don't know.
Big pharma?
I don't know. It just says like government relations or lobbyist or attorney. But yeah, it's so I don't know exactly what they lobby for.
Well, I'm glad it has to be public knowledge, but at the same time, I would think that he should know better.
Yeah.
And for a blue collar electrician like yourself, able to uncover something like that, why are more people not asking these questions?
Yeah.
I mean, state delegates, I don't even think, well, we didn't have the reports on everyone before convention, right?
Yeah.
When did this come out? The election district, it's quarterly, right?
Yeah. So campaign financing is quarterly. And so his the quarterly contributions were at the end of March is when the deadline was. And so, yeah, we just barely got the itemized contributions a month or like 5 or 6 weeks later. And so if you look at my campaign financing, I'm not on there because you have to hit a $5,000 threshold in order for the FEC to report on you. So
you're working with under $5,000.
My campaign has, yeah. And but I've noticed with Blake Moore that throughout my campaign, I've noticed that he'll get exposed for something and then he'll stop doing it. So like 2 years ago when he ran against Andrew Badger, they were highlighting, a lot of his stock market violations, right? He's investing in Raytheon and Boeing while he's also sitting
insider trading.
Yeah, while he's also on the Armed Services Committee. And then, so it wasn't until the primary race, the primary election, that he put his stocks into a blind trust. So
Yeah, but how's his father-in-law's stocks doing?
yeah, right.
Or his wife.
Because that's where they turn and go to. They don't even go to their spouse anymore. They go to an in-law.
Yeah, and
And
Nancy
they
Pelosi
and
still
I'll
goes to
bet
the
they
spouse.
invest through their in-law.
yeah, his brother is a 401k advisor,
Oh,
and so
Yeah.
like,
there it is.
and so the financial disclosure report didn't list his brother as the caretaker of his investments, but I haven't looked this up yet, but I wonder if that brother works with the same guy that's overlooking his investments.
If I'm you and I'm just a regular electrician, I start following his portfolio, because that's how congressmen start in there making nothing and end up millionaires. Follow their portfolios and you'll be rich too. That makes me sick to my stomach.
And
actually.
speaking engagements at different, institutions and banks.
Have you reached out to the delegates that supported you and asked them for, a little assistance? That's the one thing that bothers me with convention, is that here are these delegates who actually sat down with you, really believe in you, gave you their vote, primaried an incumbent, and I'm hoping those same delegates are willing to reach in their pockets and maybe buy a yard sign, give you enough money that you can actually put yard signs, maybe buy some television ads or whatever you need.
Yeah.
Because this is why people with convention get such a bad rap, because to get someone grassroots to challenge an incumbent, it takes money.
Yeah.
It takes money.
And that's the thing. Like, I think I already talked about this with you guys. Sorry, I talk about the same subjects over and over, so I keep forgetting what I said and what. But yeah, conventions. Yeah, high informed voters. They look for me and look for my message. And the primary is different. The primary, we're trying to reach lesser informed voters, people that don't pay attention to politics too much, and they vote because it's their civic duty. And so, yeah, I rely on those finances to market in text message or whatever. And so I haven't emailed the delegates, but I've been pressured enough to do it that I was going to do it today after I was done with you already. And so it's funny.
I would do it.
Yeah. So it's funny that you bring it up too, because
I would do it as a party chair. I would do it thanking them for their support at convention first and foremost, and then saying, it's going to be a difficult road to take out an incumbent. But if you believe in me and the work I'm doing, please consider donating or volunteering, because your time is just as valuable as your dollars.
Yeah.
And if you get good volunteers behind you that is willing to put signs out in really strategic areas, to book you on shows like ours so that you're getting more attention, to do some cottage meetings, some town halls with you in these top areas, and reach out to Melanie in Sun Summit and ask her, if there's any town halls that she's having. As party chairs, our job is to help all of you. And it's something that, as a delegate, it means a lot when you get a candidate, cross that convention finish line. It means a lot to have them recognize you. But also, if I believed in you and I pushed for you as a delegate, I think I could find $20 to give to you, and some time and attention. I highly recommend doing that.
Yeah.
What you need now is volunteers, and you need money.
Yeah.
And you probably need more money than delegates can provide. So you probably need to go after some big groups that are struggling with something like a development in Summit, or, groups that can pull their money together, businesses.
Yeah.
As long as you tell them right off the bat, look, my soul's not for sale.
Yeah.
I'll fight for you all the way. But, I'm not going to go against the American people for anything. My vote's not for sale.
Yeah.
I appreciate your donation.
Yeah, and my messaging on fundraising is, like Blake Moore is a return on investment candidate. People invest in him and his campaign expecting a return in government contracts or grants or something of that sort.
Or wars.
Yeah, so we need to start investing in somebody that's going to return that investment into, like, to the people. so that way the
In
people,
freedom.
yeah, through our freedom, and that way the people get that reward.
I can't think of a more offensive thing for someone to say as an elected. Oh yeah, you're an investment candidate. Businesses see you as an investment candidate because
You need to
you'll
be
make
careful talking like that. They'll book you a trip down to Dallas and have you riding around in a convertible.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
But I think that is an ugly truth that we're seeing in electeds.
Oh,
And
yeah.
what a better way to phrase it. I don't think there's a better way to phrase it, but it's also like a slap at the same time.
Yeah, and so Blake Moore's father-in-law is Roger Boyer, and he owns the Boyer Corporation, which is one of the huge real estate developers in Utah. But he owns and manages all of Hill Air Force Base housing. And so and so a lot of the general contractors that I work with, so I'm like, man, you're investing in the guy that I'm running against, it kind of sucks. But all of the general contractors are investing in Blake Moore's campaign to win over the favor of Blake's father-in-law. So that way they win projects.
It's a simple game. I mean, that's our
It's disgusting.
We've got to figure out how to sort out our elections so that one person, one voice still applies.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The
election integrity.
The Republicans, the Republicans put us in this situation, when they wanted to fight against Clinton. That was a good idea.
Yeah. And that's the thing, and even if you get away from all of, the corruption and Blake's conflicts of interest, even if you just look at his vote, his voting record is disgraceful. And so him claiming that he's trying to reduce the deficit when he's voting for all of these spending bills is a lie. And so his solutions are, he has the fiscal reporting act or something like that. So there's two acts that talk about these reports. And so you can only get so many reports out of our departments and agencies until it starts becoming so redundant and so burdensome that they can't really get anything done because there's so many reports that they have to draw up, right? And so, and even if he did get those reports, who says that he's going to vote against the wasteful spending that he exposes? He's voting for it now.
Well, I call votes like that or bills like that virtue votes.
Yeah, it's a virtue signal. Yeah.
When they put them out, they're just like, look how virtuous I was. I put this forward.
Yeah, look what I'm doing for the debt in our budget.
Yes. Look at what I'm doing. I put a bill forward that if it makes it to the floor, no one else is going to vote for it because they see through the BS. But I named it Flowery so I can tell my people back home, I've been trying. I'm working hard. I'm standing alone by myself. If you just get that big company to donate another $1 million to me, we'll make this happen.
Yeah, exactly. And with me being against the corruption and being against everything, I fully intend to join the Freedom Caucus if by some miracle I am elected, and
outstanding.
And
I'm pretty hard. I think they have to ask you to join. So I don't think you can just join it, right? Did we hear that?
You can still become a thorn in their side.
Watch you and how you vote and all of that, and then ask you. But I think it's awesome if that's your goal to be a part of that caucus. That's a great goal. I think it's a lot of people will love that.
Yeah, it's like one of the only caucuses that's for government accountability and actually delivering on your promises, right? And and so I don't expect to get these prestigious committee assignments, and so some of the most important duties that is the House floor votes, voting on these spending bills, and it sucks because everybody expects you to go and persuade Democrats to join your side of the conversation, right? And it's like, these are all people that have convinced other people that they are the best, and so they're going to be dead set in their message, and their stance on an issue. And so,
Well, Democrats claim to represent the blue collar.
no.
And here you are,
No.
Mr. Blue Collar.
Bill
Put
Clinton.
your money where your mouth is, Democrat.
Yeah.
Join me on my bill.
Bill Clinton
oh, good.
drove the nail in that coffin.
Yeah.
Well, and Donald Trump actually exposed exactly how badly they hurt the blue collar worker.
yeah.
I think there is probably a place on a committee for an electrician that would be far more important than a place for a lawyer, a business person, a military person. There are committees out there that we need real, true business owning blue collar Americans
Yeah.
to actually be on those committees.
Yeah. And I think it's funny, like the Democrats and the Biden administration, like they push so hard for the unions, right? The unions matter, and
that's because the unions give them kickbacks.
Exactly.
And the unions,
Yeah. How
the
many unions
union
are donating
bosses.
to you? Are you part of a union?
No. So I worked.
If the union bosses cared about their people, they wouldn't be supporting the current Democratic Party.
No.
Because the current Democratic Party only cares about the laptop class.
Yeah.
That's all they care about.
So go on about that.
So-
You're not in a union.
So yeah, when me and my wife were first married, we bought our house, and we were hitting the credit card, and so I needed a raise, and so I decided to try the union out because it would be a big pay raise. And while I was working there, like all of the national leadership in the union pushed, the Democrat, I wouldn't say agenda, but they pushed to vote for Democrats. Like I would get a letter in the mail telling me who to vote for in elections, and the other electricians that I worked with, though, they were all Republicans. Not all of them, but the majority of them. And so being in Utah, like I was kind of surprised because you hear how left-leaning unions are and everything. But even when you look at the news stories, or when Biden goes and talks to the union workers, you got the one guy that was talking about the AR-15s in Biden's face that one time,
Yeah.
like the blue collar workers themselves are Republicans, but it's
Right.
the union bosses that are the Democrats, and it's because they get money, they collect their 5% or whatever from the union workers, and they donate it to Democrats, and Democrats reimburse them with government contracts.
And they do it in blue states, New York City, California. I mean, these union strongholds aren't in red states
No.
per se. I mean, they're coming out of the bluest of blue, Detroit.
Yeah.
It's sad, but again, just like teachers, there's a lot of teachers here in Utah that are probably part of the union, but they don't vote Democrat.
Oh yeah.
They are doing it because they think it's their only option to get what they deserve.
Yeah.
In their work.
And the teachers union right now is ridiculous right now. So
yeah. Oh yeah. By design.
That's going to be hung up somewhere as understatement of the year.
Yeah. Ever since COVID, man.
You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah. Ever since COVID, the teachers union has gotten a really bad rap.
Well, the one thing the teachers union really hates is children.
Yeah.
And teachers.
And teachers. Yeah. Yeah.
And people.
Yeah. There's so many problems with the teachers unions. Like it's really sad,
So tell me what District 1 needs. What does District 1 need in a congressman? Because your district is so different than ours, yet you have parts of rural Utah in yours, but you've also got some pretty populated areas too, big city and stuff like that. What is it that, as a congressman, do you think your district is looking for?
So a lot of people want to hear Hill Air Force Base, right? When this question comes up, because Hill Air Force Base is extremely important. And, Hill Air Force Base, provides billions to our economy and is, the largest employer in northern Utah. So, and I want to continue to provide, you know, funding and that to Hill Air Force Base. Like I talked about voting no on spending bills, right? But I'm not voting no because I don't want to ever fund the government. I do want to fund the government. I just don't want to fund all of the waste and bloat and special interest money, right? And the only way to get to that is by voting no. So that way it sends that message to leadership. So so yeah, Hill Air Force Base is paramount for the first district, and you know, we have a lot of defensive contractor research, you know, with Northrop Grumman with the missiles, and SDL up in Logan with a lot of their work that's involved in the government, and so but even besides that, it's on a country level, you know, like the issues countrywide are super important for the first district, you know, securing the border and controlling our debt, because if we keep voting for this deficit, like inflation is still going to go up. We're still going to see it at the grocery store, you know, and, you know, we need energy policy that keeps our gas prices cheap, you know, and so there's a lot of issues that that the first district needs.
Good.
So.
Yeah.
Well, and again, people forget what a congressman actually does. Your job is not necessarily to take care of Utah. Your job is to be taking care of the United States.
Yeah.
Your votes do represent the people of District 1. But like I've said this before, I would be okay if senators and Congress people quit getting money for my county if it meant shutting off the spending totally. I hate that, you know, if everyone's not doing it, we're never going to stop the spending.
Yeah.
But if everybody says, okay, look, everything goes local, 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 local. If your county can't handle it, then your state should handle it. But for congressmen and congresswomen to have to go out and find new money, that's not free money. That's still money that is ours, taxpayer dollars. It's putting us into further debt. So we got to be prepared to say, okay, less for our county or for our district. Across the board, though, all districts.
Yeah, all
we got to
states.
seal the purse. Yeah, the purse has to be sealed. We've got to figure out. I mean, now our interest on our debt is over $1 trillion now. Nobody can fathom that.
Yeah,
like logically.
Which is our
for everyone out there screaming about our defense spending, our interest is surpassed our defense spending.
Our defense spending,
in.
Is $1 trillion, and it's the same as our debt. And the scary thing,
insane.
So if you go to nationaldebtclock.org, there's like at the top, it's green, I think. And if you look at the 2028 figures, you know, it's 46 trillion in debt, 1.4 trillion in interest. And that's just 4 years. And so, and the figure that
is that with any new spending, or is that with just regular spending as it is?
That's the current trajectory of our spending. If we continue the spending where it is now.
Oh, it was just there.
And so I figured, you know, our debt to GDP ratio right now is 124%. And it's hard to calculate GDP later on. So, but our debt to GDP ratio in 4 years could hit somewhere near 140%.
Okay, Jared's going to share this with everyone. You got to see this. It's got the debt clock. Do you mind if we show this?
No, that's fine.
And keep talking while we show
please keep talking, because we know we don't got a lot of time with you and we want to make sure. But everybody should Google the US debtclock.org, because as you will see.
Yeah, so hit that time machine button.
If you hit the time machine button and go.
Yeah, go forward.
To 2028.
Yeah, or you can click that there, So there, 40. So we're at 47 trillion. So so not even a month later. So we'll be adding $1 trillion like quickly, because right now we're adding $1 trillion every 100 days. And so so you got that 47 trillion now. And let's see, where was the interest rate?
Interest is right.
Interest paid.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so many commas.
Yeah.
And just look how
10
quickly
trillion,
it's
yeah.
going up.
Oh.
But
That's like it's not even a second.
I listened to
It looks like it's in
Thomas.
fast forward.
I listened to Thomas Massey
yeah.
speak the other day, and he's got the little lapel pins of this debt clock. And he said he plugged it, he took it home, it hit his home router and it dropped. And he said, what happened? The number dropped and then started climbing again. He said, oh yeah, taxes were just paid.
Oh, what?
I was like,
Oh, sorry, I lost you.
oh,
Did you say, oh yeah, what?
Thomas Massey has these lapel pins of the national debt that
Yeah.
run
Uh-huh.
and they're hooked up to Wi-Fi. And he said he went home and he drove home to Kentucky and it hooked into his Wi-Fi and the number dropped.
Huh.
And he's freaking out. He's like, what happened? Like, he's a congressman thinking that something happened. And then he remembered taxes were just paid. It was tax time.
Huh.
And then just shot right back up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't even make a dent.
This right here shows you how much you're being robbed, folks.
Oh yeah.
That's all it is. We're being robbed. They are robbing you blind.
Yeah.
No, they're robbing your prosperity blind. Your children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Their children.
And
their children.
and in the beginning, it was very shameful to pass on debt to the next generation in Congress. And so if you couldn't pay it off, within the 20 years or whatever, then that was a huge stain on those people in Congress. And so, but it just shows you that the crisis that we're at today. And and it's funny because I have a video of Blake Moore in one of his budget committees, and he's talking about how he doesn't even know if we have 10 years to fix our debt. And here this guy is voting for the same deficit, the same debt that continues the trend, And
Yeah.
so,
That's freaky.
yeah, but and since you brought up Thomas Massey, he has actually proposed. He actually talked about a stop the Fed, so to abolish the Fed. He just put that bill out today, I think, and then or yesterday, and then he also is doing what's called it's an amendment to the Constitution for food. So that way we can grow whatever food we want and we can purchase whatever food we want.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So to shut off the food subsidy restrictions, like how they make it so that we can only allow X amount of, if Dave's listening, sugar into the nation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So it frees up our markets. Freeing our markets is a crazy idea. It's not like we weren't designed to do that.
Yeah, and so I'll talk about so there was a Supreme Court case right after the Depression, right? And this Supreme Court case, it was Wickard versus Filborn was the Supreme Court case, and this Filborn guy was growing wheat on his farm. And the government at the time said, you can only grow X amount of wheat. And so the Filborn guy grew more than his allotment of wheat because he had livestock and he was living off of it. And so when the government came for him, he said, listen, I'm not selling this. This isn't commerce. And it's not going across state lines. So it's not interstate commerce that was laid out in the Constitution. So I am exempt from this law. And so it went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court at the time ruled against him. They said that he could only grow X amount of wheat, and he had to buy the rest from the economy and participate in the economy. And how is that not an infringement on our rights? And so, and that kind of like lays the basis of what I think Thomas Massey's amendment is about. And so Thomas Massey's amendment states this. It says, the right of the people to grow food and to purchase food from the source of their choice shall not be infringed. And
That's it. So he's
oh, go ahead.
Awesome.
is he doing it as a constitutional
Yeah.
amendment? Like,
Uh-huh.
oh,
And so
Oh.
you'll need, 3/4 of Congress to
Right.
vote for it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, why not add gather water into that? Or did he?
Oh,
Yeah. Water.
'Cause
Yeah. Water's
The
another thing.
ability to collect water in your own property in buckets from the rain or whatever.
Yeah.
Some states don't let you do that.
Yeah. And yeah, there's a lot of government regulations that, collecting rainwater even. And so, yeah, it's, and-
Sorry, I'm all being all judgy on a great amendment potential, but I'm like, why don't you just go all the way? Why can't we
Yeah.
build our own reservoirs on our property and collect water as we see fit?
yeah. And
Thomas Massey's a stud,
We
isn't
do
he?
love Thomas
Yeah,
Massey.
and I haven't agreed with like 100% of what he's, stood for, but he hits it pretty square on the head almost every time. And
Mhm.
I think water is a tricky issue, just because of the rivers. Like California, benefits from the Green River or the Colorado.
Oh yeah, it'd
River.
be terrible.
Sure, but California's had all this rain and not one reservoir's been built in
It'd
order
be
to preserve
terrible to
it.
cut California off from robbing the rest of the states. I'd hate to do that. That'd just be a crime.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, it's rain. It's
Yeah.
going to fall into the ground.
Yep.
We, the people on our property, should be able to keep any water
Yeah.
that falls on our property if we want. Most people don't care. It's just watering their lawns or whatever.
Yeah.
But in times of hard, difficult times, if we ever faced horrendous difficulty, most people in America have no idea what hard times even look like.
Oh yeah.
But if we ever had to, where we don't have fresh water and we need to collect it, I would hate for the government to go,
Yeah.
we own everything that God creates. Excuse me?
Yeah. Exactly.
What?
This fiction we built called the government.
Yeah.
We own it all, including you from the day you're born.
And so, yeah, like so that's the thing. Like rivers are one thing, but collecting rainwater is another. And so, and I don't care if they regulate rivers, because there's a lot of people that depend on those.
Sure.
But yeah, but exactly like you're saying, yeah, rainwater and stuff like that. If it's on your property, why not? And so,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just an idea considering, if you're going to make an amendment, you should go all in, make sure
Yeah.
you're protecting people's freedom because water, just like food, you need it to survive.
yes.
And so if you can grow it yourself, you should be able to collect it yourself as well.
Yeah. Which goes along the lines of, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's life.
Mhm.
If we have the freedom of life, we need food and we need water. And so, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. We're getting close on the time here. So we've talked about your website, PM4 spelled out for Utah.com.
Yep.
And that's where you can go if you want to get to know more about Paul and potentially volunteer. And all of you delegates that put him through to the primary, I really hope you're talking to your neighbors about him. I hope that you're considering a yard sign for him. You have yard signs, Paul, or you?
Yeah, I got yard signs.
Excellent. And those of you that live in high traffic areas, please consider that when you ask for a yard sign. Paul may not say it, but I will. These yard signs cost him a lot of money, and its placement is key. So if you live at the end of a street in the end of a valley that nobody ever goes on, maybe think about talking to the neighbor that lives the most high traffic area and telling them about this candidate and asking them to maybe host a yard sign. You got to make signs go a long way when you're conscious of the budget like you are.
Yeah. And those yard signs like cost money. So yeah. So, and that goes along with donations and I hate asking for donations. I wish I didn't have to, but it's kind of the necessary evil in political campaigns. And on my website, that wasn't like my full website, because if you click on the issues, it talks about all of the issues. And then if you click on receipts, you can see the receipts of Blake Moore being paid for his vote and how I show the proof of that. And so,
well, hopefully you can talk about your platform, your issues, the things you're going to do. A lot of people don't want to hear the bad about another candidate. They want to know what the good is in the candidate they're listening to. And I
Yeah.
think that you've got a lot of issues on your website, which is nice to see.
Yeah.
It's nice to see you've spelled out the Second Amendment.
Mhm.
I like that you mentioned the war between good and evil. This is not a world where it's left versus right anymore.
No.
I've said this how many times? We're in a fight of right and wrong, good versus evil. There's a corruption that's happening, and it's from the government. It's even from some churches. It's happening from regular neighbors, Hollywood. And the fact that we're not standing up against evil is going to be the major destroyer of our country.
Yeah, and our society.
We have to stand up against evil.
Yeah, and I really need to add, an election integrity issue on there, because election integrity is paramount right now. If we don't have elections, we don't have a country. And
right,
and
we have to know who's voting too.
Yeah, and all of the information on my website is from me. I built that website myself. It's in my own words. I don't have a campaign consultant typing up my website for me, and so
No, good for you.
You've also got a why we need to right this ship.
yeah.
Oh, yep.
And so, yeah,
we are the big brother for smaller, weaker nations. If we fail, no one is coming to save us. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, and that's a thing, like, and that's, I feel a lot that's behind the climate agenda is that it's not America first, it's China first. Because
it only applies.
It's politicians
to
first.
Us. Well,
and politicians first.
Or ex-politicians.
There are people that bow at the altar of climate change, and there's no way to solve it.
Yeah.
Money is certainly not going to solve it. It does enrich countries like China, who are the major polluters.
Yeah.
Countries like India, who will not ever sign any climate accord.
Yeah.
And they are major polluters. And even if every American got rid of every vehicle, every gas stove, and recycled, we wouldn't make a dent.
Yeah, because China will make up for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so why are we going to give our hard-earned money into the science? Yeah. And yet they have been teaching us fear and terrifying us for the last, when we were kids, it was going to be the next ice age.
Yeah.
Then it became global warming, and now the seas are going to overflow.
Oh, you forgot
and America is responsible for that. Yeah. Europe is responsible for that.
Yeah. And
we can all be broke eating bugs, and the UN would be happy. Yeah. We could all be third world countries, because that makes way for a national government that overtakes, and there is no shiny hill on the shiny state on the hill.
Yeah.
We don't exist anymore.
Yeah, and you hit it, like there's 0 for 41 on these climate predictions. Like they can't even predict a 7-day forecast accurately. So how are they supposed to predict what's going to happen in the next 20, 30 years,
Absolutely.
And
these sun flares that we just experienced,
yeah,
they predicted those 3 days before they were going to happen.
Yeah.
Sun flares. The sun could easily wipe out the United States of America and every other country in the world.
Yeah.
Because the sun is the sun. It's a ball of fire. And you can't predict that, but you're going to tell me that California is going to be underwater in 8 years.
Yeah.
Oh, I say we rain forward.
Face.
You know what? I am going to go buy me a 1974 Hemi. You say California's? I'm doing it. I'm going to drive around getting 4 miles to the gallon.
You won't be able to license it there. Yeah. Like they've made it illegal to own.
I do it here. Make California go. Do it anywhere.
Yeah.
California goes away.
Oh, do you have any last
Yeah, finish this up here. Take us home.
So, well, I don't know what you want me to finish up with, but I was going to say, if you want, I can talk about climate change and how the funding and subsidies are going to.
Let's give you, we got a minute that we can give you just to give one last little bit to put out to your people.
So that's the thing. I'm not going to enrich myself. I am going just to go and work. I am from the working class. Go put me to work. I don't want to go and participate in all of the corruption and the crazy parties that go on. I just want to go do my job and come home to my family. And, I am a convention only candidate. And I strongly believe in the convention. I think it is the best system ever for a party primary. and we need to protect that, even if I lose. And I'm not going to be like Governor Cox, where if I lose, I'm going to go against it. No, it's still the best. And and I would really appreciate your support in any way, shape, or form. And I appreciate you guys letting me come on your podcast.
Oh, well, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Everyone, that's Paul Miller. And you do have a beautiful family. That one little boy of yours with that mischievous grin, I bet he's a good time.
Yeah.
I just love the St. Bernards.
Yeah.
Anyways, everyone, Paul Miller, he's running for House 1 here in Utah.
He's running, for Congressional.
Yeah. U.S. House
District
District 1.
one.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
Thank you,
so much,
Paul.
sir.
You have a good one, and hopefully we talk to you again soon.
Yep.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.